Richardson takes it all. A goal from the heavens for Kieran Richardson.
Really, he could be in here. He's all alone. He scored! Sensation at Wembley from Sunderland. McGeady! Phillips, good try! Brilliant! Brilliant!
Edwards goes for the spectacular!
Corner comes in. Bernard! Yes! Oh, it's about Bernard! His cross is a cracker for Quinn! He's done it! He has done it!
Hello and welcome back to the What the Falk Sunderland Preview Podcast. I know many of you will be wondering how and why I bring myself to do these podcasts, but despite the constant pain of following the lads, you have to admit it's never really boring. Although this weekend, I think we'll probably hope and settle for a boring, easy, simple 3 points at Cambridge, a newly promoted side who are doing quite well for themselves and are currently standing in our way at the moment. It's been almost 20 years since we last faced them, so it's been a while. So to chat us through what we can expect from our next opponents on Saturday is Jordan from Cambridge United podcast Under The Abbey Stand. Jordan, I'm going to pretend we haven't chatted for the last 20 minutes about Lionel Perez and ask how you're doing.
Yeah, I'm doing really well. Thank you, Graham. It's funny you mentioned it's been 20 years since we played each other. Are you thinking of the 7-0 in the League 7-0 Cup? So yes. I remember that night because I was at sixth form college and it was meant to be the start of term disco club night thing. And all my mates were like, right, we're going to this pub, which was notorious for serving underage people first to get boozed up. And then we're going to the club night. And I was like, no. I was like, no. I'm going to the football. We've got Premier League Sunderland. It's going to be amazing. Who knows what happens? And what happened was very like unsort of David and Goliath like in that it was such an easy victory. And then so that was my freshers disco for sixth form college. Thank you, David Bellion.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain it was like that was the season we went down with 19 points, but we won 2 games in a row. We beat Villa 1-0, David Bellion scored. And then I think we won 7-0. And I don't think we won pretty much again till the rest of the season. But David Bellion got a £2 million move to Manchester United from that.
Mate, I thought he was going to be world class. Like, I know, obviously, you were a few leagues above us, so he should be looking good against us. But I thought he was amazing. And then, I remember reading that he went to Man United. I was like, that's it. He's going to kick on. But then he just fell off a cliff, really, didn't he? I don't think he did much at Old Trafford.
No, I don't think he did. I feel like he went back to France pretty fast and didn't do much there either, really. But yeah, David Bellion, for those old enough to remember him, if you don't remember him, he plays an awful lot like Leon Dejaku. And anyone who hasn't seen Leon Dejaku play, you will see on Saturday what we mean by that. We'll start straight from the top, Jordan. Obviously, Sunderland were frustrated last night, and that's been kind. I can imagine the frustrations equally felt at Cambridge. 2-0 up against Wigan, 6 or so minutes to go, ends 2-2. We're talking 24 hours or so after the game. How do you assess it?
So your listeners probably don't know this, but Graham gave me 2 options. We could do the interview tonight on Wednesday, which we're doing, or we could have done it straight after the game yesterday. And I'm really thankful I didn't pick the straight after the game option because it would have been a mixture of swearing and tears and all sorts. And you probably wouldn't be able to publish any of it. 24 hours on, I feel a little bit better. I do think that long term we'll look back at last night and go, do you know what? That's actually a really good point against a really good side. Like Wigan were decent, probably the best we've seen, I would say, so far this season. Pressed us really well. But there's a couple of real key sort of takeaways from last night's game. So yeah, firstly, I think it would be a good point long term. And then secondly, it just felt like the game was such a reflection to the Cambridge United season so far in that, sort of 2 things. Like on one hand, we were really competitive, which we have been in pretty much every game that we've played. And then on the other hand, we're incredibly frustrating. We were our own worst enemy last night. And it's been like that the last few games, sort of making, quite basic defensive errors and costing us goals. And yeah, I also just think it was just a kind of reflection of where we are in terms of a squad. Like we've got a small budget, possibly the smallest in the league, got small numbers in the squad, and players were out, and it got to sort of 70 minutes and you're 2-0 up and you're thinking about game management, and there's just no one really available on the bench in the positions that you needed. And we ended up having a striker come on and play right wing, and he did the foul that was the free kick that they equalized from. And it makes it easier to sort of accept that, because it's kind of sort of the limitations that we've got so far. But it's a kick in the teeth being 2-0 up out of nowhere as well. Was not predicting that at all. And to be disappointed with a point when before the game, if someone said, would you take a point against Wigan, who was second, I think, at the time, it would have been like, yeah, snap your hand off. So a weird evening, but we go again. Yeah,
of course. And I think that was one of the things I always look at recent form, and I think a good gauge is to go maybe like the last 5 games or so. I mean, I'm no expert. Really, realistically, you should be watching all the games, but I love football, but not to the extent of watching every League One games. I'm sure you'll agree is probably not the best thing to do. But you came into the game on a really tough run of games, really. I mean, Morecambe away, MK Dons away, Rotherham, Wigan at home. You came out with 4 points. 4 points in 4 games doesn't sound great, but when you put into context, Morecambe have been doing really well. MK Dons is a really tough game. Rotherham, in my opinion, the best side in the league, or have been so far. Wigan are where they're at. Although it's frustrating to only get the 1 point, how do you assess those sort of 4 games and the recent form in general?
Yeah, I was thinking about recent form, sort of preparing to speak to you, and I was sort of looking at the last 6 games. It's like, well, we've picked up 8 points from the last 6, which doesn't sound huge, but when you add like a bit of perspective and you look at like what else is going in there, our best defender's out injured. We also have another defender who's our captain out injured. We've had tough opponents, like you say. We've had a really hectic schedule. We played Saturday, Tuesday for what feels like forever. I think it's actually only 6 weeks on the trot, but when you've got a small squad, it's a big deal. We've had a lot of away games that are long distance as well. So if you add all that together, I'd have to say like the form over the last 6 games isn't that bad, really. And we got, at the start of those 6 games, we beat Wimbledon and Morecambe, and they were really significant for us, which might sound a bit odd because they're not exactly big teams in the league. But our start to the season had been really encouraging, and we've been really competitive, and we've taken points in games that people didn't necessarily think we would. But our downfall was the sort of the teams that respectfully are the same kind of profile as us, teams that we would expect to be in that bottom 6 to 8 with. We lost to Gillingham, we lost to Shrewsbury, let a lead slip against Fleetwood. So it was great, saying, you beat Portsmouth and you went to Plymouth and got a draw, and Oxford couldn't beat you, and Ipswich couldn't beat you, Sheffield Wednesday couldn't beat you. That's all great, but are those games going to define our season? Same as Sunderland on Saturday. Is that going to define our season? Probably not. Whereas, playing the likes of Fleetwood and stuff like that are really crucial. So we started that run of 6 with 2 wins against Wimbledon and Morecambe, and that's the first time this season that we've beaten that profile. So that's really encouraging. And then, from there, I guess in many ways, because the start of the season had been so good and the points return had been really good, better than we thought, it kind of meant that this block of 4 games, which started with Milton Keynes, included Rotherham, and then has Wigan last night and yourselves, we could kind of afford to go through that and not pick up a lot of points because we've done the good work up front. So genuinely, part of me thought maybe we'd come through the 4 with no points, but I've got 1 last night, which is good. And, a good performance on Saturday against Rotherham as well makes me feel a little bit bullish ahead of the Sunderland visit.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say it's been a really solid return to League One, and I watched your playoff games, and I'll openly admit at the start of the season, I think I said Cambridge and Morecambe were probably my favourites to go down, but 1-5, drawn 8, lost 7, pretty much smack bang in the middle of the league. So coming into the season, what realistically were the expectations, and are you exceeding them?
I think we are. Obviously we've slid down the table the last couple of weeks with these recent results, but we went into the Milton Keynes game sat 10th in the table, and that's like 7 or 8 places higher than anyone expected us to ever be at any point. We went into the season, and a lot of people, podcasts, blogs and so forth, quite understandably backed us to not only go down, but to finish bottom of the pile. And from an outsider's perspective, I can totally see why. We're a promoted club, we've got a small budget, we hadn't signed a list of names that are recognised League One or Championship players. We had a lad who scored 34 goals for us the season before, who's no longer with us. And our manager is only starting his second full season as a manager. Add all that together, like quite rightly, you would say that's a team that's going to struggle. I think Cambridge fans, based on last season, and last season we got promoted when no one expected us to. We were a sort of pretty average lower League Two squad that punched above its weight and got promoted. So because of that, I think Cambridge fans sort of thought, well, there must be something about that. There must be a reason for that. The answer is the guy in charge. So for that, we just had a little bit of an inkling that we would be in the bottom third of the table. But because of that sort of spirit and morale from last season, if that follows through, we could maybe surprise a few people and we keep it competitive. And I think people's expectations for the season were, or still are, to be in that bottom 6 or 8. But I think people just wanted to be competitive and, not be relegated by Christmas and, still have something to play for. So yeah, from that side, we've not only met, but probably exceeded our expectations. Obviously there's a long way to go. January is going to be big because we're going to need to bring some players in, but so far it's going pretty well. I think before the Milton Keynes game, our PPG was tracking at 58. We've got this nickname, code name, Operation 50. Just get to 50 points, stay up, and it'll be huge. It'll be huge for the club. Like, we've not been in League One for 20 odd years. It's not a league that historically we've spent a lot of time in. We've either gone through it going up or through it going down. But if we could stay here for a couple of seasons, stabilize, build up the fan base a little bit, that could hopefully maybe inspire the next step that's needed for the club. So some new investment, some new money, and then potentially look to grow from there. But yes, so far enjoying life.
Talking about the manager, obviously, or head coach as it's now known as, obviously Mark Bonner's, as far as I can see, pretty much been there for years, but not in the position he's in. I think you're looking at, I think Mike Duff gets an awful lot of praise at Cheltenham for the job he's done, and understandably so, but Bonner's kind of gone under the radar a little bit. How good of a job has he done?
An incredible job. He took over, he got announced as our permanent boss like the week before the COVID cancellation of the season. So he didn't actually play well. So he did interim for like 6 or 7 games and did really well, but he didn't have a first game as permanent manager until we came back. At the time of his announcement, everyone sort of rolled their eyes and went, right, well, we've gone for the cheap option again. It'll be him for a year and a half, and then we'll find someone else, and so on and so on. But he's done an incredible job. The squad that he inherited was not a top League Two squad. He signed players that were released from clubs that didn't do very well the season before, and then turned them into superstars in League Two. And yeah, we got promoted with no one seeing it coming at all. I think one of the keys for his success is he keeps his squads quite small. So it does really feel like there's a sense of unity in that team. And that's maybe why we've got players, busting a gut each week and sort of playing beyond themselves, because there's that kind of morale going through there. But the Bonner story in general is just a brilliant one. Graham, you and I are both 35. Mark Bonner turned 36 last night. He's never played professional football. He joined Cambridge, I think he must have been sort of like 18, 19. He joined our sort of youth team setup and has just worked his way up from there. He's did a few years at Southend when we dropped into the conference and we lost our funding for the academy. Then he came back, took over our 18s, got a really good reputation for himself as a coach, and so got sort of promoted into the first team picture, and then just worked his way up from there. I think he was assistant to 2 or 3 different people and got the job full time. He's done he's done a terrific job. And the best thing is he's a Cambridge fan. You know, he was stood on the terraces the last time we were in League One, possibly was stood on the terraces when Sunderland beat us 7-0. And it's just a great story because, you know, whatever happens from here, whether he's successful or not, whether he moves on, whether we get relegated, whatever, we'll always have last season where one of our own got us promoted from nowhere. And, you know, we're not a club that's got a lot of promotions in our history. So he's joined a very small group of managers.
Talking of the players he's brought in, you said before it's a small squad, and I've noticed obviously he brought in Lloyd Jones. He didn't technically bring in Masterson, obviously, but they're both Liverpool Academy players. But the one that obviously really sticks out, well, there's the name in Wes Hoolahan, which I'm sure we'll go on to. But if you're looking at statistics alone, you have to look at Ironside. Middlesbrough born. Obviously, we always come up against the Newcastle born or a Middlesbrough born forward in the past few weeks. Scored 14 and 44 in the league last year, but he's already got 8 and 19 this season. So 1 and 2. How important has Ironside been to yourselves?
Oh, Big Joe, hugely important. Last year, Paul Mullin got the headlines. Paul Mullin scored 34 goals in all competitions, but he played up top with Ironside. And I genuinely think if Ironside wasn't there taking the hits as sort of the big target man, Mullin probably wouldn't have got half the goals he got. So he was hugely important last year. This year more so. We came into the season and it was hinted at quite early doors that we'd have to change our style and our formation, and we have. We've gone from playing quite an attacking diamond shape in League Two to a more solid 4-5-1. Or at least 4-5-1 out of possession. And to make that work, you need someone up top on their own. And he's terrific up there. He's a real cart horse, you know, he just works so hard. And, you know, he occupies defenders. And, you know, if you're going to have success on Saturday, Sunderland will need to sort of restrict how long he can hold the ball for, because he is our sort of get out of jail card. We'll soak up a lot of possession. We'll sit back. We'll have that low defensive block. But when we can get hold of the ball, we'll put it up to Ironside and we'll try and get to him as quick as we can. So, you know, Sunderland, you know, if you can, you know, restrict how well he traps the ball, then you'll probably be onto a good thing on Saturday. But yeah, he's been hugely important for us and, you know, stepped out of the shadow of his former strike partner. So yeah, hugely important guy for us.
Were you surprised that, I mean, I don't think there's anything that surprises you in football anymore. We're talking of Mullin, just to kind of bring Ryan Reynolds and Phil Parkinson into the conversation. Obviously, he went to Wrexham. He's doing well, as expected. But were you, I mean, even I'm surprised by that. So I can imagine as a Cambridge fan, you must have thought, well, hang on a minute.
Well, I guess Wrexham are down to be the next Netflix team. I think they've got a series coming soon.
They're welcome to it. That's not a problem.
Something I believe you guys know a little bit about.
One or two things.
Yeah. And was I surprised? A little bit, but then not really. So I think this, you know, the story goes back to sort of January last year. You know, he scored his 20th goal for us in January, and you just thought it's probably going to go in January, right? And he didn't go. And you thought, right, well, he's not gone, but it will definitely go in the summer. And the longer it went on in the summer that he hadn't signed for anyone, the more you thought, oh, there must be something here. Because we all just sort of assumed that he would end up at like a League One Northwest club. You know, he's based in Liverpool. He's got a young family. He would go somewhere closer to home, which technically Wrexham is. But the longer it went on in summer and he hadn't signed for that sort of club, and you saw them, you know, people like Bolton and Wigan announcing other signings, you sort of thought, well, what's going on here? And then, yeah, the Wrexham rumour happened about 2 weeks before he did sign there. And I guess it just makes sense, really. I think he got a very handsome deal for non-league. And I guess he's earned his payday with us, and good luck to him. But I'm gutted for him because he was League One before with Tranmere, didn't really get sniffed there, and then he's passed up the opportunity to have another crack at League One with us. I wish for his sake that he does get an opportunity at this level. It's obviously seen the potential at Wrexham. They won't be in the conference for long. maybe they won't come up this year, but you must think that eventually they'll spend enough to get up, and could be a case that very soon we're playing at the same level as them. But yeah, disappointed he didn't stay, but what a terrific year it was for him last year. He broke all our sort of scoring records that have stood for sort of 30, 40 years. So yeah, it's incredible.
I can imagine the pull of getting to meet Danny DeVito was quite a big one as well, to be fair. I'm a big Danny DeVito fan. I think everyone's a big Danny DeVito fan. I never thought I'd say that on a podcast that would actually relate to football, but there we go. That's football, isn't
it? Yeah. I guess if you can't get a club at the league that you want to go to, if someone offers you a ton of money, you're just going to take that, aren't you? And I think that's what the story is.
Love to say no, but I'd be lying. I don't like
that.
We talked about this off air and we had a good chat about it. I said before, we had a good 20-minute chat beforehand, but there was a reason for that. You mentioned a name to me, and I don't think Sunderland fans are going to be aware of this, but for those unaware of it, what's happening on Saturday? Who are we likely to see on the pitch that is not going to play for either team, but did play for both teams?
Probably good that he's not playing for either of us. Perhaps we've both upgraded since then. But yeah, there's not many former players that have played for both Cambridge and Sunderland.
Jody Craddock was the only one.
I was going to say my favourite when I was a young one was Jody Craddock, but we have got the other long-haired player coming and returning on Saturday. So yeah, half-time, Lionel Perez is going to come out on the pitch and wave to everyone. He's coming over from France, and yeah, I'm really excited for it because he was such a character for us. He played in a terrible team, and I think we got relegated in one of his seasons with us, and he was on a big wage with us, and this was just before the whole ITV digital saga, and I'm sure it didn't help the finances when that all hit as well, but for some reason he's got this cult status with us. And I remember his first game on loan to us, and he sort of was warming up and everyone started clapping, and he just turned around and he bowed. And it was like, no one's ever done that before. That was incredible.
All that.
Yeah, and then from there, he's just had he had such a rapport with the fans that even the questionable season of being relegated and the dodgy performances, he's still looked upon so fondly. And yeah, can't wait to have him back. I just hope that he doesn't get asked to take a penalty at halftime, because that could end in danger for someone.
See, I never knew this story, because I think Sunderland fans listening to this are old enough. And if they listen to me, they probably are. No offense, listeners. But Lionel was awful in ways that would pull out a randomly good save. And he was a real character that became like a cult figure that was probably unfortunately outshined by the cult hero that replaced him afterwards that was actually good, in Thomas Sorensen. But you told me a story off air about him taking a penalty. I don't think there's many Sunderland fans aware of this. So just for those that don't know, why should he not take a penalty?
Well, yeah, his last game for the club, it was like a dead rubber at the end of the season, and we were at home, and I can't remember the team we were playing, but I think we were winning at the time, and it was quite late into the second half, and we got a penalty, and the crowd just started chanting for Lionel's name, and I don't know what the management or the players were thinking. No game management there, but he came running on up and they let him take it, and honestly, Graham, it was the worst penalty I've ever seen. Drilled it straight down the middle, barely off the ground. The Beckham Argentina World Cup that went in, like, that was an awful penalty. Imagine that. Apart from the goalkeeper got something to it, got part of his leg to it. So not only did he miss, he hit this ball so hard that the goalkeeper then got stretchered off. He didn't score, but he damaged someone's leg so seriously they had to get stretchered off. And then I think we went on to draw that game. So yeah, it all went down. I think it's on YouTube, actually. I'll send you a link.
God bless Lionel. If you're listening, Lionel, which the crazy world of Lionel Perez, you might be, you never know. But weird cult hero that never actually was that good. But I think I always had respect from, like I was saying before, sort of off air, the fact that he said he went to Newcastle because Sunderland didn't want him, and that was the closest place to Sunderland. It's like, you probably shouldn't have done that, Lionel, but fair play. And he cost him about £1 million in wages, so fair enough, without actually playing the game. Talking of Sunderland, we'll have to, unfortunately. I don't really want to, but there you go. we're in a difficult situation right now. There's no denying it. Sort of one win in our last 8 games in all competitions. Anyone who follows me on Twitter knows I've kind of turned on the manager. I think a lot of people have. Desperate to see anyone succeed, not just him, but it's just not happening. As a newly promoted side that's not played us in sort of 20 plus years, what do you make of the whole situation at Sunderland?
I don't want to be one of those small clubs that blows smoke up your ass. However,
please do.
Well, you get promoted to League One, and one of the first names you're looking for on your fixture list is the Sunderland game. I think the only other one for Cambridge is Ipswich because it's close, but not a local derby close. So it's just a fixture that everyone's been looking forward to for such a long time, like to be playing a team of that size and that history. And, you probably, well, for us, it's kind of a big deal, but you're probably fed up of that, right? Years of being in this league and being the scalp and being the big team that comes to town. So
yeah, sometimes, yeah.
But I think from our perspective, I guess it was sort of looking at the club and thinking, God, there must be some really big expectations there, and it must be a lot of pressure on the management and the players. And could that be something that plays to our benefit on Saturday? Quality wise and player wise, obviously you're superior, but if we can sort of ruffle some feathers, kind of make it tough and tense for people, maybe we can, get that sort of, get that edge on you guys. And, we played Shrewsbury recently, and they're good at the shit housing. So we know that if that worked for them with 10 men, then maybe we've got a chance on Saturday. But I'll end it with a positive. I would love it if you guys go up. I've at the start, in the summer when the fixtures came out, I had this vision that we play you as our last away game of the season. I think it's your last home game. I just had this vision that game before kickoff. You're already promoted and we're already safe for the season. So everyone just in a good mood, in the glorious Sunderland sunshine, which I'm sure you guys get in like April and May, right?
A little bit, yeah. It's normally got to breathe with it, but I can't really complain. Living in Scotland, it's probably summer all the time in comparison to what I've got here. It's freezing at the moment, but yeah. So you touched on there about like being the scalp, and yeah, I think first couple of seasons and occasionally in these seasons it does feel like that, but. When you see that we've been here for 4 years and you see the kind of stupid results, and with all due respect to the teams in League One, some of them are, for the 100 years of history that some of them have had, can feel a bit embarrassing. And last night's one of them at 10 men, Shrewsbury, all the players out of position. But when you see results like that have happened consistently for years, do you begin to look at Sunderland as not a soft touch, but you do start to think, well, they've done it about 40 times before and duffed it up. Like there's no reason we can't get 3 points, and it becomes not as much as a scalp, doesn't it?
Yeah, we've got a similar but slightly different past in that we did 9 years in the conference quite recently, and when we first dropped down, we were, I think there was us and maybe Oxford that were former Football League teams in there, and we were those, we were the big two, and you would go to grounds and it would be a couple of hundred home fans and they'd swap end at half time, and you'd have home games where you'd have maybe 30 people in the away end. So we've experienced what must be similar to clubs like yourself and Ipswich and so forth, who have dropped down from a bigger division to this one. But then we were there for 9 years. So I think we've got a lot of sympathy and a lot of understanding for clubs like yourself that do drop down into these leagues and then struggle to go back up, because it's something we've experienced, albeit at a slightly different level ourselves before. But I just remember when we got promoted out of the conference in our 9th year there, and it was a feeling that if we didn't go up that year, we would probably fall into kind of irrelevance, and it could never happen. So yeah, definitely understand the pessimism that, not just yourselves, but other sort of former Prem clubs are probably feeling being in League One. But then I guess you look at the league table, you're not the only one here. It's a big old league, a really tough league. And I just hope I wish you all the best for the season to get up.
I just hope we come back in like April or May, whenever it is, and we'll go, oh, what were we worried about? Lee Johnson's won the league with 400 points and Cambridge are fine. You're pushing for the playoffs. That'd be lovely, wouldn't it? But I think I've done this for too long to know that with Sunderland, it's never straightforward. We'll probably beat Arsenal and get beat off, whoever we play after that. That's a Sunderland way. Couple of questions before I let you go, Jordan. Obviously, one of my sort of favourite parts, not recently because of the form, but you always have a judgment on your own players, and then you speak to an opposition fan and they're kind of feared of another player that you just don't see that coming whatsoever. But who are the Sunderland players that on paper, at least, you worry about a little bit on Saturday and think can cause you problems?
I'm going to go for the obvious one just because it's such a well-known name, but I'm going to go for McGeady.
Yeah.
Is that the right thing to say, or is that just sort of a?
I love him. He's been a really off color this season, but when he hits a patch, yeah, like there's a reason he's played as high as he has. He's been a bit off form recently, but to be fair to him, he came on against Ipswich and probably turned the game a little bit. He seems to have turned into I'm going to say impact sub. He's made an impact once and he only came off as sub twice, but McGeady's still McGeady. He's still got your fast feet. If you catch him on a good day, yeah, he's the best player in the league in my opinion. Just this season, his day hasn't been as often as I would like it to be.
Yeah,
but I'm very pro McGeady. Very pro McGeady.
And then I guess the other one for us, just given that we've got these issues at centre back, is whoever plays up front for yourselves. If they're got a good build, if they've got a bit of experience, they could cause us problems. So yeah,
Ross Stewart, on paper again, 10 goals, 6 foot, 500 or whatever. He's a big guy. So that could be good. You touched on there's a few instances with your defensive problems. Have you got quite a few players out on Saturday?
So centre-back wise, we only started the season with 3, which is questionable in itself. But one of those 3 was our club captain, Greg Taylor. He got a nasty injury back in August, and I don't think he'll be back till sort of February, March. So he's definitely out. Lloyd Jones, who you mentioned earlier in the call, who I would say is our best defender, best central defender. He's been out the last couple of weeks, and what was originally billed as quite a small injury has now got people a little bit worried because it's like, well, where is he? He's not even in the squad. So don't know if he'll be fit for Saturday. He wasn't part of the squad last night. So that's a worry. So our current centre-back pairing is moving a lad from left-back to centre-back, a guy called Jack Iredale, which is a real shame because he's actually a really good attacking threat. So it's hindering us not only in the centre-back region, but also out on the left-hand side. And then, Connor Masterson, who's on loan from QPR, who jury's out on him. I think he will have a good football career. I think he will play probably Championship quite consistently for the majority of his career, but he's at a point at the moment where I think he's getting more out of this loan than we are. Like, he's getting the experience, he's getting the game time, he's making the mistakes and learning from it, whereas he's making mistakes for us and we're dropping points because of it. So I think he'll probably get the nod ahead of our other centre-back, Jibril Okadina, who I think is the better of the two, but is smaller and came unstuck last year. We had him on loan last year from Spurs. He came unstuck against sort of the more wily, experienced centre-forwards that could bully him a little bit. So perhaps Masterson might get the nod on Saturday to sort of deal with Stewart a little bit better. But yeah, I think defence is our main worry, really. I think sort of midfield and up top, we're competitive, but yeah, a little bit worried about the lads at the back.
So of course, brings me on to the final question. I keep getting these wrong. Even when I predict us to get beat, we end up winning. So, but I'm going to go with a good old Jack Ross 1-1. Jack Ross loved a 1-1. I don't love a 1-1, so it's bound to be a 1-1. Probably tells you the kind of way I'm feeling about something at the moment. I think a lot of us are. I think you're probably going to have the crowd up for it. I think it's very despondent at Sunderland now, which doesn't take much, but we have been really off colour for a few weeks now. But what's your thoughts on Saturday, Jordan? Prediction?
Well, I wanted to say 1-1, but I felt like we said it a lot just then. So no, I think given the performance last night against Wigan, even though we I said lost, it felt like a loss. Even though we drew,
I know that feeling.
The performance against Wigan and the performance against Rotherham, especially second half, where we really had them on the ropes and we should have equalised. Like I was saying earlier, it's got me feeling a little bit bullish, and we've kind of got to the end of this block of 4 really tough games, and for some reason there's some optimism there. So I'm going to say a draw, but because I'm so optimistic, it's definitely going to be a Sunderland win, isn't it? It's just going to be egg on my face, and we do have a good record of ending teams' bad runs. So you can thank me later. Also, Owen, one of the lads I do with the podcast with, whose Twitter handle is Vinyl Perez, because he works in music and loves Lionel Perez. He shared a stat with us earlier, which basically says, so far this season, we've not lost to any team that's won the FA Cup. And then we quickly went, well, we've got Sunderland on Saturday. So when we have a good stat, we never get to share it. So I've got, maybe you'll ruin that for us.
That is a good start, to be fair. Great Twitter name as well. But Jordan, thanks so much for joining me. Obviously, I'm not enjoying doing these podcasts, but I did enjoy that one. So I know some of the listeners to this podcast enjoy hearing the opposition view. So where can we find your stuff sort of after the game if people want to listen to maybe the Cambridge viewpoint after the game?
Yeah, absolutely. It's at Abbey Stand pod on Twitter. If you search Under the Abbey Stand, you'll find us. So we have a blog, so we'll have a preview, which goes up Friday, and we'll do a written match review, which will go up Monday, Tuesday, and then we do our podcasts every Sunday to release the Monday morning. So we will have our take on the Sunderland game fresh for you, 6:30 Monday morning. So yeah, that's where you can find us.
Awesome. Jordan, thanks very much for joining me, mate. And don't enjoy your Saturday, but enjoy the rest of the season after that.
Graham, it's been a pleasure. Thank you. And safe travels to everyone that's coming down from Sunderland. You've sold out the away end, which is going to be brilliant. So yeah, all the best.
You bunch of idiots.